All right, welcome to the Legendary Upside YouTube channel. We're going to stream a draft here. Got Sackreligious alongside for DraftKings draft. Sack, how's it going?
It is going well. I've kind of taken to drafting on DraftKings for the last few drafts I've been doing, just waiting for the schedule release. But DraftKings has that promo where for every 5 you do in the month of May, you get one draft back in the form of a ticket. And so just trying to make sure I get my 25 DK millies in during the month of May to take advantage of that promo. So
yeah, that's what I'm kind of doing that as well, and also just sort of trying to save some bullets in Best Ball Mania without the schedule. I've done only 6 Best Ball Mania drafts. I did mass enter the mini Schnauzer. I know I probably shouldn't have, but I did, and I'd have 20 solos going now. So that'll kind of keep me in the underdog streets. But this is DraftKings is something I'm kind of making an effort to get more of this tournament specifically than I did last year. I didn't max this last year. I got close, but there's only so much time for drafting, and I didn't do enough early. So I'm trying to do more in May to make sure I can actually max it. It's now up to $20 as opposed to the 10 it was at last year. And so, I kind of, it's still a really big final. If the final's over 1,000, but it feels like a little bit more of like I don't know exactly. It feels more of a concrete tournament as opposed to just like a thing that's like, yeah, it's not going to make me any money, but I should play
it. Yeah, no, I mean, I've liked the DK structures the last couple of years. The offerings have been pretty good as far as the payout structures. They're really consistent with how they do the advance rate stuff too. It's usually just 1 to 12, 1 to 12 in the playoffs, except for the really high stakes stuff. So yeah, I like the way that they've got those set up.
So we do have the Legendary Upside rankings. I've got the link to that in the description if you guys want to check out these ranks on legendaryupside.com. Underdog does it this way too, but it is nice to have. You can sort by rankings and by ADP. In this, you can view both at once. So it's nice to have the set of rankings in there. Otherwise, you're just looking at ADP twice.
Yeah, usually in the drafts, what I'll do is I'll have it sorted by rank for the most part, just to be like making my decisions. And then if I'm ever trying to see if I can push a guy around a turn, I'll go sort by ADP.
So we got Amon-Ra here, or Brees is probably the decision. Where you at?
I mean, I think we just take Amon-Ra. He's higher in the ranks and he has lower ADP. So not trying to get too out over our skis on any one guy in the first round of the draft. Even though I think both of us in our heart of hearts want to click Brees there, but
yeah, I think DraftKings, one thing that I've felt over the, like last summer, let's say, it was definitely less wide receiver heavy than Underdog, but in the drafts that I've done, it definitely feels a little bit like you can get locked out at wide receiver more than I was used to. So I don't mind going with Amon-Ra. Obviously, with a PPR format, he's pretty nice too.
Yeah, I've seen both Brees and Bijan fall. I think I got one of them at 9 and the other one at 10 in drafts I've done over the last 2 days. Yeah, so
Bijan just went 9. Okay.
Yeah, Bijan. Yeah, and so that's another reason why I'm like not trying to get too gung ho about taking either of them at 6. Just they fall more here. I also think that, I mean, DraftKings everywhere gets softer later, like much later in the summer. The middle of the summer, it's still like relatively sharp, but DraftKings gets a lot softer. So we'll probably see how wide receiver thirsty the rooms are change a little bit as we get later in the summer.
Yep. Yeah, DraftKings has a reputation for being a lot softer. I do think that it's more reactive to news, and sometimes I actually think that's sharper. And I don't. It might just be like the ADP algorithm is like a little bit more sensitive.
The DraftKings ADP updates like during like regularly. It's not pushed once a day like Underdogs is. It continuously updates. So you can see it during, like, if there's a day with a really big piece of news, you can in real time see that player's ADP change. And I believe there's got to, I mean, I don't know exactly, but
You want to take Olave here?
yeah, I like Olave a lot. And then I've had pretty good luck getting a Chan to come back to me in the third sometimes. It'd be a crazy fall if he made it all the way back to us here. But yeah, I've got a couple teams where I've gotten a Chan late. I'm pretty happy about it.
Yep. Yeah, Purple Yosh pointing out we're serving the people who can't play on Underdog. We got the rankings for you as well. So, hop on over.
But yeah, I think there's something too in how their ADP algorithm updates compared to Underdogs, because I know Underdogs is like a rolling over the last period. I don't know for certain what that period is on there. But yeah, DK's definitely feels like they shift quicker.
It shifts way quicker. And I think there's also, it's like an element of people freak out when they see Q tags. I think it's a big part of understanding, like, if you're newer to DraftKings, if you're going to put more volume on DraftKings than you have, and you're mostly on Underdog, like, if a guy has a Q tag and he's falling, like, he could fall like a lot. Like Dobbins last year was going in the 8th round, stuff like that, where, I don't think he ever really fell out of the 6th on Underdog. So you don't want to like go nuts. If you get him in the 7th on DraftKings and he requires a 5th round pick on Underdog, I think that's fine. You don't have to get the max ADP value, but in general, if I'm kind of leaning towards pushing someone, I probably will do it on DraftKings.
Yeah, I mean the Q tag and the out tag are the best gifts that you can get on DraftKings, because those will really plummet someone's ADP. So yeah, like we had when contest launched, Hawkinson was going like, we're on the clock here.
So Waddle or Nabers? I think I'm Nabers here.
Oh, I like Waddle here, but I mean I don't care between the two. They're both fine. I'll draft them both.
So Nabers' ADP is low, and we like Waddle. So his ADP is, like, the difference is enough to push Nabers up, but I love Nabers, man. I'm taking a bunch of Nabers. If we had HN, I think, yeah.
Actually, I just had that happen to me today, where 2 times I was faced with the decision between Jalen Waddle or Deebo Samuel. And in one of them, I had taken a Chan in the 2nd round. And so that was my tiebreaker there. So,
yep. Yeah, well, I like Waddle a lot. I'm taking a bunch of them, but I mean, Nabers is starting to, you're not going to see Nabers at 3-6 on Underdog. Like, that's pretty rare now.
No, yeah. I mean, on Underdog, he won't really make it past the 2-3 turn. But on DraftKings, I wouldn't be so surprised if he hangs out in the 3rd round for a little while.
This discount is pretty wild. Harrison at 2-3 and Nabers at 3-6. The quarterback is, it's a pretty big discrepancy, but you got sharp coaching. You have absolutely no target competition in New York. And then you have a prospect who's really good. So bullish on Danny Dimes, someone asked. Not really. No, I'm bullish on Malik Nabers being awesome. That's what I'm bullish on. I honestly, if it's Drew Lock at the end of the season, I still think like Malik Nabers will be okay. But I think he's awesome.
Yeah, just like when we take Tyreek Hill at 3rd pick overall, it's not because we're so bullish on Tua, but
right, that's a good, yeah. I mean, most of these guys, like, you're not.
Yeah, like Chris Olave goes 2-7, and Derek Carr goes undrafted sometimes on Underdog. So,
and Derek Carr's probably like, you're hoping that Daniel Jones can be like a Derek Carr level of, like, it's not a total disaster, which he was 2 years ago. I know.
I'm pretty sure, like, if we're picking a specific outcome and not thinking probabilistically, I'm pretty sure Danny Dimes is pretty bad.
No, I agree.
But yeah, if honestly the shout from Daniel to Daniel Raz that he had pretty significant benching risk due to the contract guarantees, that's going to save me a lot of pain, I'm pretty sure.
I like Tank here. We could also go Hurts naked.
I was gonna say I'm kind of down for Hurts, and then we just know that we have to take Goddard a little early. It puts us
You
in
could
like a
also do
little bit of a
Lamar and play for Andrews, but you like Hurts.
because I think the same thing you can run into pain with Lamar here too, because Andrews can go before it gets back to you, and Flowers is already off the board, and so then you're like, oh, I really don't have anyone. I mean, you can do the late stacks with Lamar where you're doing like a, you know, if you really want to do the Rashad Bateman thing again, you can.
Lamar is easier to backstack because you can also go likely, and then you're directly bidding
That's
against
true.
Andrews. So
That's a good point.
I've done that. I've done Bateman, Devontae Walker, and likely. I haven't really done this one. I usually only take Hurts if I've got them stacked, but
I think this is just such a crazy fall. Like, close your eyes. It's July 20th. Where is Jalen Hurts going? It's like, oh, he never leaves the third round, and we just got him. Like, this isn't going to be possible. What we have here is only going to be possible for pretty short window. I agree
with you. I agree. Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, how are you ever going to get Amon-Ra, Chris Olave, and Malik Nabers with Jalen Hurts? That seems not possible.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to be an underdog loyalist, but looking at the DK ranks, I cannot get in this. Yeah. There's it's a different environment. It's a different landscape over here. There was another comment I liked here. Oh, are you fine double tapping Rice Worthy and non-Mahomes builds? Ranks seem to lend itself that way the 5-6 turn. I am.
Yeah, I've done it a couple times. Man, I went so hard on Worthy on the first day of the tournament, and I got.
Speaking of Worthy, what are you thinking here? We could go Kirk, Worthy.
Yeah, I think I'm Kirk here.
Yeah, I like Kirk a lot. Yeah, we could try to push Worthy.
This just doesn't feel like a super special price for Worthy. Like, it's going to be. I think this is a relatively attainable price for a while on Worthy.
I agree.
Feels kind of hard for him to get up into the fourth round, and I think for it to matter, he's got to be going where Zay Flowers is going. So I think there's enough. Yeah, I mean he goes, but.
Getting some comments here. Shady advice pointing out the one hole roster. What do you think of this roster construction, Zach?
I think that is not one that I would do.
You're not going to running back, tight end, running back, tight end.
I mean, that 4-5 turn pick is probably. I couldn't imagine making that pick without you. If I was doing a team and you're like, you got to take Rachaad White, Dalton Kincaid at the 4-5 turn, you would have to pay me the entire entry fee for that tournament to make that pick.
So you would do it. So you're as long as you're free rolling, you'll.
Yeah, if I'm free rolling it, sure. But
you'll donate your time.
Not putting any of my own money. Yeah, honestly, when I think about it from a time standpoint, as long as I'm allowed to autopilot the draft after that and go do a different one. Then yes, you have to pay my entry. Let me not invest any more time into the draft, and then I'll take Rachaad White, Dalton Kincaid at the 4-5.
Other than that, you nailed it.
It's great.
The 5-hole people are liking this. That's a triple stack in a tournament with the. What do you think about that? Because people ask about that sometimes. We'll make our pick and then we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Oh, Rashee Rice came back.
Oh, I mean, we just smash it. That's the easiest. Easiest click in the world.
Now, Sack, are you worried about him being suspended until 2027? Does that concern you?
No, not at all. I mean, I famously was the guy that called the league office last year asking for a stricter Alvin Kamara suspension, and they didn't give a shit. That guy.
I thought you called the Vegas Police Department. That wasn't you?
No, I did not call the Vegas Police Department. I called the NFL league office and said that they needed to look for a stronger suspension here. But yeah, they don't care. And Alvin Kamara nearly beat that guy to death in public in front of a bunch of witnesses on camera, and then was caught on camera bragging about how hard he connected with his jaw afterwards. So yeah, I'm not super concerned. I mean, I think your worst case scenario is Rashee Rice gets a couple game suspension.
Let's say he did get the 8 games. Where, at what point? Because this was a topic in the Leg Up Discord yesterday. If he gets 8 games, where does he end up going?
before Christian Watson.
I
Because
think
Christian
you'd go
Watson.
a little later. I think you'd go like 9th round.
Well, Christian Watson's missing 8 games as well. Just like as a default player archetype. But no, like right in that round, I like answering the question genuinely. Like, yeah, right around there does feel right to me.
Like literally around Watson or around round 9?
No, I think like around Watson is probably right.
Okay.
But
wait, Alex, he says 8 games is not allowed per CBA. Is that right?
I have not.
4 games max?
I can't confirm or deny that.
If that's true, then the market has lost its mind.
Oh, I mean, I put zero stock into the report of he's going to get up to 8 games. That sounded like absolute make-believe to me.
Yeah, that was like felt extremely, extremely shaky to me. But
we should come back and talk about this triple stack on a CJ Stroud team.
We should. Let's wait until we pick again, because then we'll have slightly longer to talk about it.
Yeah, we're gonna perpetually bounce to different topics and never come back to this.
Never come back. We'll tease it though the whole time. Structurally, what are you liking here? I mean,
here we're probably going to have to turn on the tight end and running back faucets. So I'm pretty partial to Evan Ingram here.
Yeah.
The other way that we play it is we take a running back here and then we take Jake Ferguson next round. We also can end up double tapping tight end in these next 2 picks. Go Evan Ingram, Jake Ferguson, get 2 guys that I really like.
Evan Ingram just went.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure the way you play it is you push Jake Ferguson. If you're like feeling really scared and you need to take Jake Ferguson, you could take him now. I honestly, even though it's ahead of where we have him ranked,
I don't think we need. Yeah, I think we take like a Ramondre or Najee.
Yeah, I think you just take your running back here.
Yeah, I mean we could take Ferguson. Do you want us to take Ferguson?
I think it's correct, actually. Like, yeah. Because if you lose out on, say, hypothetically that Ferguson and Njoku are gone, like now we're kind of in a rough spot. And we know we're taking Goddard. So like we want to set ourselves up to where we've got 2 that feel pretty solid, I think. And then we can tack on a third if there's a good third one somewhere. But
yeah, DraftKings, you get straight up locked out at tight end sometimes, and it's really tough. I mean, this happened to me last night where I took 4 tight ends, and the 4th tight end was like I got sniped on. I don't think it was Fant. It was someone like much worse than Fant. I think like Zach Ertz went. Oh, and I was like, what? Like, because I wanted to do a 4th tight end. I actually think I drafted Fant. It was like Fant, Juwan Johnson, and Taysom Hill. No, it wasn't Juwan Johnson. It was someone stacked instead of Juwan Johnson, and I grabbed Taysom Hill because Johnson went. But it was in the Juwan Johnson. It was Kate Otten. It was Kate Otten stacked with Baker, Taysom Hill, and Noah Fant. And then I was like, I want to add a 4th, and it was just dregs.
Yeah,
I think I added Dawson Knox.
Yeah, you're staring down Will Dissly at that point.
Yeah. Who I've drafted. I've drafted him with Herbert.
Okay, hang on. Do we have time to talk about this Houston triple stack?
No, we don't. We waited too long.
I am glad to hear you're coming around on Noah Fant, though.
I am a little, yeah. So, do we try to push Goddard to the next one?
Yeah, we're totally fine there.
And then we grab a running back.
Yep. I wonder which running back you're going to.
Yeah, no, you know it's going to be Jalen
Warren. Whenever I'm looking at the ranks and there's like, it honestly starts with Ramondre for me. Like when Ramondre's there, but Jalen Warren's also there, I'm like, do I really want to take Ramondre Stevenson over?
Why do you think we took Ferguson? Exactly. Like the 2v2 is going to not have Jalen Warren, so we should just do that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's how I do it a lot of the time. I'm like, oh, if I do this, I don't get Jalen Warren. I mean, it worked pretty. Hey, when I followed you into the abyss on Breece Hall last year, it worked pretty good.
Worked pretty well. And Warren worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
We're running it back. All right, let's talk this triple stack.
Okay, so the thing I hear a lot about this is like there's no way for all three of these guys to quote unquote pay off their ADP. And from a season long standpoint, if you define pay off their ADP as finish at the wide receiver number that they got drafted at or higher in total production, which literally it almost couldn't matter less for like the game that we're playing, but like just to set a definition, I think you're probably right that it's really hard for all three of these guys to finish at where they're drafted or above, and all succeed. If they do, then CJ Stroud like is the QB1. You know, he's just crushing. He's 50 touchdowns. Doesn't matter. But that's not really the game that we're playing. And so I think the better way to frame it is if you had a pool of lineups that you were entering in the DK Millie Maker in a given week, would you want to have all the different combinations of CJ Stroud stacks there, where it's CJ Tank Dell, CJ Tank Dell plus Diggs, CJ Nico Diggs, like all those different permutations of skinny stacks, double stacks, and triple stacks? Like, do you want that? If the answer is yes, then I think you should at least consider this triple stack. The trade-off here, though, is that you're doing this like all three of these guys are pretty highly priced, is kind of the effect that it has on your team when it does come down to week 17. It's like you end up with pretty expensive stack. We'll continue after we make our pick.
Yeah,
here.
I think that's the trouble with it. Yeah, we'll figure out the pick, and then did Goddard go? No, he went, or he didn't go. Yeah,
I think we just we got to do Goddard here because otherwise we're rolling naked Jalen Hurts, which at the end of the day probably isn't the worst thing given the value that we got on him. But I think the only reason I'd ever pass on Goddard here is if there was a crazy value at running back, which is our position of need the most.
It
right
really
now.
isn't. I mean, Benson's fine, but
I just do Goddard here.
Yeah, so what you compare it to a DFS stack, like you would be spending. I mean, it's kind of funny. You basically you probably can't do this. Like you wouldn't have the salary to even do this in DFS. But I think to the point of, to take that further, I do like that then you went zero running back in this build because you're basically betting to unlock a DraftKings roster that won't be available to actual DraftKings DFS players in that week 17 final. You have to then hit on, like, you should probably be swinging for the fences at running back even more than maybe is typical for a zero running back build. Like, in order to win the final, you're probably going to need to have absolute smashes at running back who you're getting for free, and then it unlocks you to hit two legs of this expensive triple stack, because you're not probably having all three guys hit your lineup in a really powerful way, but two of them could. And so, like, and over the course of the season, betting on the Texans is just a winning bet. So yeah, I think that's probably the slight tweak I would make, is that I'd be like, I wouldn't be taking the Devin Singletary types as much. I'd be trying to swing a little bigger.
I'm debating if I were in his shoes instead of Kittle, if I maybe would have taken Addison just to like give myself one more bullet at wide receiver, since like I can feel decent enough that I've got, of these three wide receivers, I'll probably only ever be able to use two of them with pretty good scores every week. I mean, it's possible for all three.
I like the elite bully tight end, because you're basically like, another way I'm going to win this is I'm going to have a sick tight end score that week.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I like that. It's just like, I feel like I'm giving up a lot now to not get that wide receiver. But yeah, it's really close in my opinion. I think both are going to be viable. It'll be interesting to see what he does at wide receiver the rest of the draft.
Yep. All right. Brian Robinson.
Yeah,
you should probably move Eckler behind Robinson. I think this is a feature of how the ADP works for these ranks. I'm going to override Eckler and get him lower.
I agree with that, because I just don't click him here, even though he shows up.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we're in a position now with our draft where we just need to hit running back while they're here, because we're pretty strong at wide receiver. with Rashee Rice as your wide receiver 5 and Malik Nabers as your wide receiver 3, you're feeling pretty good.
Yes. Now, what do you think about this construction where we've got Jalen Hurts and Goddard, we have Ferguson, we have Nabers, and now we have Brian Robinson. So the chance that we have a bring back week 15, 16, or 17 on an Eagles skinny stack is actually pretty high now.
Yeah, no, I like that. That's what I've been doing during this pre-schedule release draft window, is just trying to, tie break in the direction of divisional correlation. So
yeah. And I don't think we need to go overboard, but at no point we kind of stumbled into it, but it was fun.
Yeah.
It was definitely in the back of my mind when we were thinking about whether to take Hurts. I was like, well, maybe we'll think a Nabers bring back. That's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, at this point in the draft, this is the other thing about DK, where it's so much more variant from room to room, where Underdog is, for the most part, like, you kind of know what you're going to get. I mean, there's weird stuff that happens every draft, but on DraftKings, sometimes you can be in this spot and then your next 4 picks are all going to be running backs you like. And then there can be a totally different room where 18 running backs go in a row, and you're like, why did you just take Kamani Vidal? What are we doing? But you're like, okay, they're all gone. They're all gone now. I'm dead.
Yeah, DraftKings is wild that way. You just have more dead teams on DraftKings than you do on Underdog. Like, Underdog is much more like predictable.
So for me here, I would be Gus Edwards pretty much all the time.
I think that makes sense. We've got 5 wide receivers already. We only have 2 running backs. Gus does Gus stuff and hits our lineup pretty regularly. So I'm into it.
Yeah. And then this is a spot where, like, now we have a little bit of breathing room at running back. Like, we got 3 of them. They're all guys who have decent projectable volume, right? Like, we can be pretty confident these guys are going to get work most, if not every week. And so I feel like, I was just about to say, if Josh Palmer comes all the way back to us, I'd be willing to take the value fall there and correlate with Gus Edwards, but he goes to the Herbert draft right after us.
Yeah. No, I think the Palmer and Lockett were both pretty nice values there.
Yeah.
It's a wide receiver 6 versus a running back 3, and you're nearing the end of a tier at running back. I think the correct decision was to go Gus there.
Yeah. This happens too. Like, this guy has 3 quarterbacks over here in the 9 hole: Anthony Richardson, Kyler Murray, Kirk Cousins. Like, it's pretty entirely unnecessary. And then the guys right behind him are like, oh my God, I gotta get quarterbacks. And so you've got this quarterback scarcity that's gonna really, really hurt the rest of the room. The one hole in particular, actually, the one hole has Josh Allen, doesn't he? Yeah, he does. He's fine.
Yeah, and
we're fine because we're probably going to be only a 2 quarterback team. Unless we get a third guy that just really falls at value to us, but I'm assuming that we're probably going to be something like, Jalen Hurts plus Derek Carr with our Chris Olave at this point in the draft, with who's gone off the board.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. Question about stacking up Trevor Lawrence with these guys. I think that's too much of a reach. I don't understand that part. How advised was that put Thomas, Ingram, and Davis? I don't tend to do Dave. I tend to do Kirk, Thomas, Ingram, and Lawrence. But I think if you like Gabe Davis, I think it's totally fine. I mean, that's cheap. Those are kind of the stacks that we want to be prioritizing. And then another question about the Eagles, stacking them. One thing I think about if you're asking yourself, like, how deep into a stack you can go, one way to think about it is how many of these players would you stack without the quarterback? And the Eagles, like, if you have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, I don't love not having Hurts there, and that's like a sign. Like, I would not stack Goddard on top of those 3 without Hurts, because Hurts is going to blow up that week. If those guys are hitting your lineup, you need Hurts, I think.
Yeah.
So, where are you at on this?
I would be Dowdle here, 100% of the time again. Maybe sometimes I'd mix, I'd randomize and take Charbonnet there, but those are kind of like the end of a tier. for me there.
We have Ferguson though. I mean, I like the potential bring back element with the.
Yeah.
I mean, we also now have the whole NFC East pieces. So if like we have a Ferguson Dowdle with Malik Nabers coming back, like we are betting on that game.
Yeah.
Hurts just needs to, tush push in for 3 touchdowns. That game can dud and he can still get there.
The deeper stacks with rushing quarterbacks too, like Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, can be risky, especially like the more draft capital you're spending on the skill position guys.
Right.
Just because the quarterbacks do consume so much of the fantasy production for the offense. So doing it with a CJ Stroud is like, in order for multiple of these guys to hit your lineup, CJ Stroud has to cook. But for multiple of the Eagles play, like if you have AJ Brown, Devonta, and Goddard, for multiple of them to hit your lineup, you need Hurts to cook and not have eaten up a bunch of the rushing touchdowns that week. Like they have to be passing touchdowns instead, which is something you don't have to worry about as much with the pure pocket passers. So,
yeah, I think with Hurts, I generally prefer to have it with a single stack just because Devontae Smith is so expensive. Like if Devontae Smith was a 7th round pick, then I would be double stacking him constantly. But it's very expensive and pretty easy to see. I mean, we've seen many examples of this where either Smith or Brown has the big game and then Hurts adds a lot with his legs. And then you need to add, I mean, to win a 1,000+ person final, this is the biggest final out there. Like you're going to need to have a lot of points hit your lineup. It's not going to be enough to like get some okay scores out of several top picks. You need to have people go off.
Yeah, I had a pretty crazy team in the DK play action last year, which is also a decent sized final, and it was only good for like 15th place or something. And I had like CD, Amon-Ra, who was there was a running back that I had that went off as well, where I was like, oh man, I might be live to ship this thing, and then it's looking pretty bleak as the games go on in those really large finals.
Yeah, there's gonna be some nutty scores in there. All right, what do you think here?
Now we can kind of take our pick. I don't hate doing some New England stuff and doing Polk here and then setting up like a Antonio Gibson and then potentially Drake. If Drake May falls really far and we either get sniped on Carr or we just want to throw him in as a really cheap quarterback later, I don't hate that.
Yeah, I like that as an out. And with Hurts, like you're probably Jalen Hurts, and goes to your Sortino ratio article, which is on Legendary Upside. People should check out this concept of we don't just want a high ceiling in best ball, we also want a high floor, and that's what makes Josh Allen such a strong quarterback pick, is that he just hits your lineup every week. And so like you can almost consider drafting one quarterback when you have Josh Allen. Well, you can kind of think about that too with Jalen Hurts. I wouldn't really want to build teams like that because this isn't where we're just trying to score a bunch of points in the regular season. We're trying to win single week tournaments, 15, 16, 17. And having that second out to a spike week is pretty awesome, in my opinion. But we can still think that through. Like Hurts is hitting our lineup 90% of regular season weeks. Do we even need Drake May to start this, week 1, week 2, week 3? Like if Drake May starting week 7, is that a huge problem for us? Maybe not, especially because we got a nice deal on Hurts. This team could be like really sick in the regular season. So honestly, I think Drake May is like maybe option A.
Yeah.
I love Drake May, but
I do really like using these elite quarterbacks with really high floors. Like Hurts and Allen specifically are the ones that I'm the most confident in doing it with this year. Guys that like go early, but I'm not doing it with would be Lamar, Mahomes, Stroud. And same with Burrow. Like I don't want to do it with them there because all of those guys have floors that are lower than Hurts and Allen. Just if you look at their kind of historical distributions. The guy that I actually think could probably be closer to that archetype of like really safe floor and has good ceiling is maybe Anthony Richardson, but we have such a small sample where I don't think you want to do that very frequently and like place too much confidence in that. But I wouldn't, if you did that for a couple teams, I wouldn't think that was dumb.
I wouldn't either, and he's expensive, so you're kind of making a big bet. What do you think about Jalen Wright here?
I think it's okay. I'm just not like so enthused about the Jalen Wright stuff. We could take one of our quarterbacks here, or we could just do Jalen Wright and see who comes back.
Let's do Jalen Wright. We're getting a decent ADP discount on him.
Yeah, I think he probably should be cheaper. But because I think you have a couple obstacles, right? The first obstacle is that like they just extended Mostert. They very clearly like him. They're not like trying to get rid of Mostert. You know, they know that he doesn't have a ton left in the tank. And then they have a Chan who's the most explosive back in the league. They want to get the ball to him. So to me, Wright just feels like eventual Jeff Wilson replacement, and then they're hoping that eventually he's replacing Raheem Mostert. And so,
I see what you're saying, but the thing with Wright, and the reason why I think we should be taking Achane, because my God, he was efficient. Yeah, and then you could be, maybe like the most explosive runner in the league this year. I mean, it's wild. But if you look at it from the other perspective, okay, where we've got Jalen Wright, we've got a running back who's had knee issues, knee swelling, and he's in his 30s, and he's kind of a speed back. And then you've got like the tiniest starter in the league ahead of you, and you've got size and speed, and you're a downhill runner, and you're in a Mike McDaniel offense.
He has size and speed. He does not have ability, but size and speed are a great place to start.
I mean, he's a kind of a polarizing guy. He came out as kind of a third-round rookie pick, sort of quality of bet to me. But I know like Eric Froton over at NBC really liked him. He had some fans. Some guys don't like him at all, but I think my thing with him is that he doesn't look versatile at all. He's not going to catch passes. He's not going to catch passes at all. But in the same way that like, Isaac Guerrero ending up with the 49ers, it's like, okay, if you're going to not catch passes at all and you want us to be interested, land with one of the Shanahan guys.
Yes. And I feel like Guerrero and Wright are very, very similar bets. Wright is definitely better than Guerrero was. Like Wright actually did get to play some in college.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering maybe if you think that the reason he really didn't see so much time, we can make our pick here.
You want to go May?
Yeah, let's do Drake May here. And then I'm not like totally out on if Derek Carr comes to us for completely free at the end of the draft and we're like staring down, do we want to take Greg Dortch as our 9th wide receiver or whatever, or just take a stacked Derek Carr with Chris Olave? Like, I think that's fine. But now we're free to push Derek Carr as long as we want.
Yeah, and I have a different thought I'll run by you when we're on the clock.
Okay. But yeah, going back to Wright, is the reason that he didn't play very much in college just because he's not capable of doing very much, but he can do enough that it would be useful in Miami?
Right. Yeah, no, I think he's a contingent play, but like this is we win something if we get the contingency to pay off, and it's going to be a rotation. Neither Mostert nor Achane's going to have total control of the backfield. Even if Mostert gets hurt, Achane doesn't take over 90% of snaps. We know that. And I'm drafting a ton of them. That's not the play. The play is that he can get there on, especially in a single week upside. If, we're betting on single week upside more than anything else, like he can do that on like 12 touches. So I don't even need the full workload, but that opens up potential touches for Wright if Mostert's not around.
Yeah, I mean, like looking at the guys who are on the board, like if it was between Algier and Wright, I definitely would have wanted Algier, but Algier went off before. Taking Wright over Kendre Miller doesn't feel like, I mean, we should be doing all this stuff at a frequency, not like 100% on one versus the other. It's not binary, but I would probably take Kendre Miller over Jalen Wright more often than I'd take Jalen Wright over Kendre Miller.
That seems fair to me. I've not really drafted Wright since the draft, though, so I like to get in a share. I was going to flip Hunter Henry, but Henry and Carr go.
Yeah. Taysom Hill going too makes me a little sad.
What jumps out to you here? I mean, we're looking probably wide
I think we're
receiver.
wide receiver.
Baker?
Yeah, I'm good with Baker. You can also do Mims, because the thing that I really like about the Patriots wide receivers is no one knows who is going to be the Patriots.
Yeah.
Who are the starting 3 wide receivers for the Patriots? Your guess is as good as mine. And there's 5 of them that you can take, starting with Demario Douglas and Polk, and then you go on down to Baker and Bourne and KJ Osborn. And I think you should probably have some Drake May teams with a little bit of each of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And if you really hate KJ Osborn, you can't get there. Fine, you don't have to click him all the time. But I think you should at least, if you're having multiple Drake May teams, you probably should have at least exposure to those guys once.
Yeah, I like Baker okay, but Mims was a nice value there, and we can hopefully get both. We'll see.
Yeah, I do like Mims a lot. I feel like, I think it's just partly the ADP being slow to adjust with, like, Troy Franklin going in the 14th and Mims going over 2 rounds later doesn't make a ton of sense to me. Because Mims was a 2nd round pick that they traded up for, and Troy Franklin was a 4th round pick. They did trade up for him. But yeah, I
think they traded up like egregiously for him. Like, he might be like, they basically spent like a 1st round pick on this guy.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what they're doing as far as their process for.
When Peyton wants a guy, he gets him. He doesn't play him after that. He does not play him, but he does go spend up for him.
He does get his say. Yeah, he's just burning that war money.
Yeah.
So let's go through our running back room again real quick. I feel like we're in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, we have Jalen Warren, Brian Robinson, Gus Edwards, Rico Dowdle, and Jalen Wright.
So we'll definitely want a 6th. We don't need a 7th. This is one of the most baffling ADPs on the board to me if he gets back to us. But
Herbert.
Yeah, Khalil Herbert, it almost picked 200. Like, Justin, the kick returner for the Pittsburgh Steelers just went before Khalil Herbert, and the kick returner is only eligible for the quarterback position. He can't even go in your flex.
Do you want to do Herbert or Baker?
I would do Herbert, and like, if we don't get Baker, we don't get Baker. We already have a stack for Drake May. And I think Herbert is like tab into the running backs really quick and then tell me that you don't want to take Khalil Herbert.
Yeah, fair.
The Elijah Mitchell thing is another one where it's like you should take Elijah Mitchell. Elijah Mitchell is not being appropriately priced. Just the specter of Garendo, I guess, is throwing people off of it. But yeah, I think, and we've talked about not wanting to be too overly confident in the RB2 on the depth chart, like especially when it's at all ambiguous. But I feel like we've got enough signal to.
Okay. Purple Yosh is saying he looked up the CBA. There's no limit for how long the commissioner can suspend someone, which is what we're talking about. The Chiefs are bracing for a suspension. They're not going to suspend Rice themselves. So look at that. We're getting updated CBA information.
Yep. Thank you for your service, Purple Yosh.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, there goes Baker, which I think is fine. I'm going to end up with so much of every Patriots receiver because they're all really cheap, and I think they're all pretty underpriced.
Yeah, it was okay to push him, I think. I wanted to take him there, but I liked Khalil Herbert kind of structure over the stacking preference. It'd be a little different if there was like no other way to get a double stack with Drake May, or if we hadn't stacked him yet. But we've got him with Polk. They drafted in the 2nd round, by the way. That's he's the priority. And then there's 2 other guys that you can backstack with Drake May.
Yeah, I'm about to wish for something that this is like one of those monkey paw wishes. I was going to say, I really just wish that we would get clarity that they're going to start May from day one, and he's the guy. It's like, I don't actually wish that. I want the ambiguity so he can stay cheap. Like, I need a lot of cheap Drake May. I don't know.
Oh,
I mean, I feel
born. That's a bummer.
You know that I'm KJ Osborn pilled, so I know you're not. As KJ,
I don't know
Osborn
how
pilled,
one gets KJ Osborn pilled. Like that's like who who did you listen to? What have you watched? Like,
do you know why? Do you want like the like my disturbed brain bias for KJ Osborn? I actually legitimately, like, all bias aside, I think he's a totally fine pick in the situation.
For us,
yeah.
But everyone else is gone.
We have but here's why. Way back, this was whatever year KJ Osborn.
Or do you want to take Hyatt?
I think you do Hyatt here.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Okay.
He's a better player than KJ Osborn, as KJ Osborn pilled as I am. But it was the year that KJ Osborn went absolutely nuke in the best ball playoffs. And that year, I'd been trying something where I felt like the rate of stacking a quarterback with their wide receiver one was substantially higher than with other players. It was a few years ago. And it was the case when I looked at the data that I had on it, which was just me tracking all my own drafts. So not a huge set of data because they weren't releasing all that stuff back then. But so I avoided doing a lot of Justin Jefferson to Kirk Cousins stacks. And I did a lot of Kirk Cousins with KJ Osborn stacks, which didn't go great throughout the season. But then those playoff weeks where all those Justin Jefferson teams died, that was really fun.
Well, that's a DFS thing that I remember. I forget who had this, but it's kind of like I know there's been research done on, like, the wide receiver 3 kind of comes along for the ride when the quarterback really blows up, and you can gain a lot. And especially in best ball, like we're tacking on a guy like KJ Osborn to Kirk Cousins stacks. It makes intuitive sense, and it's actually paid off. I just pulled up his game log, but we should probably pick. Oh, no, we're up in 2 picks. Okay. Yeah, I mean, in 2021, he had 15 points in week 16, 12.5 points in week 17. He had a 26.7 game in week 15 of 2022. Are we on the clock?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What are we doing?
I believe we're wide receiver here.
Did Osborn go?
Nope, he's there, right below
he?
Deonta Foreman.
Okay. Right, let's just
just got it in there.
We almost missed KJ Osborn. That was terrible.
I know. After you're gassing him up, yeah, it must have been the 2022 year, and I think it was on DraftKings. Was where I had all the.
Oh, it was on DraftKings. This was half PPR. I was saying.
Because I didn't play Underdog that year because I was like, it's softer on DraftKings, so I'll just do DraftKings. And my action wasn't so large that I needed to use multiple sites between FFPC and DK that year. I got plenty down, but I do think that was the first year that I started dabbling on Underdog.
He must have had like almost 35 points on DraftKings.
Oh yeah, he went absolutely ham. It was great. I got a bunch of teams to the semis, and then they died.
Let's see. DraftKings scoring. Oh, they don't have it. Okay.
I think that was also the Jerick McKinnon
PPR points.
Yeah, it was. I had a ton of KJ Osborn and Jerick McKinnon that year, and that was what you needed in the playoffs. But
yeah, Jerick McKinnon led the week. God. You had the second. No. I think. Let's see. The second highest scoring wide receiver. Because that was the Zay Jones year. He had 34.
I also had a bunch of Zay Jones. So Zay Jones, KJ Osborn, and Jerick McKinnon. I got 0 finals teams through. By the way, I had so many semis teams, and they all just died. I think I had Kittle, who had gone off crazy in some of the earlier playoff weeks and dudded, And
Kittle was the number 1 tight end in week 15. Dude, you had the best week 15 of all time.
I had an insane week 15, and then, it all went to shit week 16.
You had the number 1 running back, number 1 and 2 wide receivers, and number 1 tight end.
That was the year where I was like pounding the table for Jerick McKinnon because he was the pass catching back in an offense that was going to score 1 million points, and he was going undrafted on DK, which is dude, when guys are going undrafted on DK, like they're all the way buried. And Jerick McKinnon should not have been all the way buried that year. So it was fun. I think I had like 40% Jerick McKinnon or something crazy. And it did nothing all season until when it actually mattered. It was great.
What do you want to do with this final pick? We could go Slayton and build out this like Giants thing we have.
What's left in the tight end? Gross.
Yeah, tight end.
Never mind.
We could go Bellinger or Theo Johnson if you want to do the Giants thing again.
I mean, I don't know that it even does a ton for us. If there was a guy where I felt like we had some path to like good upside at tight end, that's where I would do it, but not there. I think we just take our favorite wide receiver here.
I think it's probably Slayton for me. He just keeps doing stuff.
Yeah. Slayton's fine. Builds out our Giants bet.
No running backs really jump out.
No. Remember when I made you rank Deuce Vaughn?
Well, here he is.
We're still not clicking him.
All right. Well, I don't know why you have me rank him then, Zach.
He needs to be in the top 250. So
this was all just a test to see if you really wanted to take Deuce Vaughn enough to have him in the ranks.
Listen. I can't ever consciously select Deuce Vaughn, but when I randomize, I need Deuce Vaughn to be in there as like a 1 out of 30 kind of probability.
And then what happens? And then I take him. Okay, all right. Yeah. All right. As long as you take him, following the randomization.
Yeah, I'm trusting that we are randomizing at the correct frequency.
All right. What do you? Let's wrap up the team. Amon-Ra, Chris Olave, Malik Nabers, Jalen Hurts, Christian Kirk, Rashee Rice, Jake Ferguson, Jalen Warren, Dallas Goedert, Brian Robinson, Gus Edwards, Rico Dowdle, Jalen Polk, Jalen Wright, Drake May, Marvin Mims, Khalil Herbert, Jalen Hyatt, a lot of Jalen's, KJ Osborn, and Darius Slayton. How you feel?
I like the team. The only I like to go back and look at was there any spot where we could have done something different to improve it? The only thing is maybe we want a third tight end because our guys they're both middling kind of guys. I definitely could see a third tight end adding value. But where it all went out the window for us was between that Drake May pick and our Marvin Mims pick, all the guys that we would have wanted, Jawan Johnson, Hunter Henry, Taysom Hill, Mike
Hunter Henry I really wanted as the double stack.
Yes. All of those would have been ones I would have wanted to click. The only one that came back to us that would have been a third tight end I would have taken is Noah Fant there. But I don't think we take him over Marvin Mims because then we're
and I think we take Baker there if Mims is, although we end up taking Herbert. So maybe we take Herbert. I don't think I'd change our decision there to take May knowing that the tight ends go. Say we took a tight end instead of May there, and then Derek Carr and Drake May both go. I guess it's a solo Jalen Hurts team then. Right. Yeah. I guess we just go Daniel Jones and you just hope Hurts stays healthy for the end of the year. All right. I got to run, but this was fun. We'll try to do a little bit more streaming regularly this year. If you want to check out the DraftKings rankings, and first of all, it's only $10 a month right now to sign up, so you can get in, get the rankings, get some drafts in, get a ton of value for this month. But yearly subscription right now, we're offering $50 Underdog credit if you sign up for a yearly subscription at Legendary Upside. Fill out a form on the site. I'll show you here where it is. So right here, this $50 credit perk/Discord right here at the top of the site. After you sign up, you go here and you just fill out this Underdog form. Give me your username and the email that you signed up with so that I can send your username over to Underdog and they know who to credit the $50 to. So very simple. Everyone who signs up right now for a yearly subscription will get a $50 Underdog credit if you fill out this form. Also, if you're renewing or if you have renewed, we're doing $25 renewal credits. So if you've previously filled out this form and I have your username, you're going to get that credit whenever you renew. So just renew and you get $25 Underdog credit because we like you. You're cool. You signed up for Legendary Upside. But anything else, Zach, before we get out of here?
Yeah, I think on the streaming front, we'll probably we'll do some more stuff on YouTube, of course, and then I'll probably get back to doing streams every once in a while in the Discord channel, just for our members that are in the Discord, taking questions, letting you guys just hop in there in the voice chat with me, and always happy to have people draft in there too. I can kind of help you pilot along. Working on some stuff right now, so we're a little busier. But once we get through this push that we're trying to get through, I plan on doing a lot more stuff as far as streaming in the Discord.
Discord access as well. That's below the paywall, but the same exact part of the site is where you the link to join the Discord is hosted. So top of the page right here. All right, guys. We'll be back eventually to relatively soon to do some more streaming and some more podcasting. See you then. Thanks for watching.